Welcome everyone to the Perciavalle Show, and I'm here today with Davide De Angelis, my friend, amazing artist, and that have the opportunity to work with David Bowie and the Starman Tarot deck create. Hi Davide, nice to see you.
Hi Marco, ciao, come va?
Bene, tu?
Yeah, tutto bene.
I like that you speak Italian because you have Italian origin and also you have the last name of my mother. It's an honor for me to talk with you. We know for a few years now. Like, yeah, 2019. It's a long time.
It is, yeah.
Mm, our friendship and also collaboration, we can say, because start in an interesting way, was for me like I say a benediction from you and Bowie. In 2019, in a bookstore in Rome, I found the first edition of your deck, and I read that you worked with Bowie in person, and I said, oh, I love Bowie. I don't read tarot at that time, and I start to be very interested about you, and I start to read your story inside deck, and that you met Bowie when you was a kid, before that you met him many years after, start to work with him. Can you let me know more? Can you explain to people how you met Bowie the first time in your life?
Mm. I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, but so my dad was from Rome, Allo Romano. He was a proper Roman, and he came over to England in 1958 with no money, just his Italian suit with a suitcase. And the first thing that he did, he went to Soho in London, because in those days, Soho in London was called Little Italy. So he got a job in Soho in a restaurant waiting table. And, fast forward maybe 2 years later, he's the manager of one of the restaurants. He was very ambitious. He was somebody who was very good with people. And so he was managing a restaurant, Italian restaurant on Old Compton Street in Soho in London. And this was really in the heart of the theatre land. So also because you know what Italians are like, they don't like to do what they're told. So he always had an arrangement with the police, because back in the 1970s, we had very strict licensing laws for selling alcohol. But my dad used to invite the police in and give them all the best wine, food, everything for free. And they said, okay, if you want to sell alcohol and do stuff after the time, I think it was 11 o'clock, you had to stop, 11:15, something like that. But my dad, they took no notice, and he carried on serving wine and everything up until maybe 2 a.m. in the morning. So quite often, people that had been to the theatre would come to Old Compton Street and then go to his restaurant. So over the course of the years, he used to come home from the restaurant. He would say, "Here's an autograph," and it was like Steve McQueen, from Steve McQueen, Richard Burton, Elizabeth Taylor. They used to go there after they went to see a show in London. And because it was very private, and had a private room at the back, you could go at the back of the restaurant and you wouldn't have all of, like press or anything. So the thing with this particular restaurant, it was just around the corner from Trident Studio, which is where Bowie recorded Ziggy Stardust. And so maybe 2 or 3 times Bowie went into my dad's restaurant. And he didn't ever remember him eating anything. Nothing, just drinking maybe milk or something. I can't remember now.
Yeah, I really like milk, and also I remember that it was doing like super milk. I don't remember, it was a strange ingredient poison.
Something strange, yeah.
Yeah, I like milk with something other than say super meal. I don't remember. But
Yeah.
I know that it's a funny story that you was growing with Bowie when you was kid in the restaurant.
Yeah. So one, of course, my mum worked in the City of London, and she actually worked for one of the Lord Mayors of London, and they often had dinners at night or functions that she had to go to. So she would drop me off at my dad's restaurant, and they would just put me at the back because obviously they didn't want me interfering with all the restaurants. So they would put me at the back with a drawing pad and pencils, something to draw. And I was just a kid. And one night David Bowie came in with another guy. I don't know who this guy was. I've never ever found out. The only other person now that's alive is my uncle that was at a restaurant at the time, and he thinks it might have. I don't know. Is it? I can't remember his name now, but my uncle has a theory about who it might have been. I can't remember. I don't know. So I actually, because I was at the back, they put Bowie and this other guy at the back of the restaurant, and of course I was there, so I couldn't help meet Bowie. He was there, and because I was drawing, he was interested because that was his thing. He was always interested in art and stuff. So that's how I first met Bowie. I mean, just as an aside, all those years later, when I started to work with him, he didn't remember this. I said to him, he didn't remember that he'd met me.
Oh,
No,
he didn't remember? Because I
no.
know after the story is Bowie was like in first class, business class airplane.
Hmm.
He was flying. He found your art on Art Magazine, correct?
Yeah, correct.
And he didn't remember. He didn't recognize it.
No, well, I don't think he knew. He didn't know my name because
Huh?
it was. I was just, I was there. My dad put me there, and but what he did do, he borrowed the drawing pad. He asked if he could write something. He was speaking to this guy, and of course, you know what Bowie was like. He was smoking maybe a million cigarettes. You could just smoke inside in restaurants in those days, of course. So he had cigarettes going. I think he was drinking wine and this milk stuff, and so I gave him the pad with a pencil that I was using, and I thought he was going to write something important that he was talking to this person about. But he finished off the drawing that I was doing. He just
Oh,
wanted to draw, and then I've still got the drawing. You know, it's still with me. So um, that was the first time I ever met Bowie.
okay, that one was your first collaboration with Bowie.
My first collaboration. Yeah.
Oh, who signed the drawing? You or Bowie?
Well, neither of us. If I'd known, I would have got him to sign it. But
I'm sure.
yeah,
But long story short, after how was continuing your life because you was kid, and after you went art school.
yeah,
How was your evolution?
yeah. I mean, I went to art school. I was always like the kind of kid that was in trouble at school. So
The Italian kid.
yeah, I didn't do anything that I was told at school. I didn't really fit into that environment.
Yeah.
I was dyslexic,
Oh.
so I didn't. I the whole thing of going to school and being there every day and doing what I was told just didn't suit me. So very early on, I already knew I wanted to be an artist because it was something that really appealed to me. It gave me the sense of freedom in the world, and not to do a job. I didn't want to do a job. So, so yeah, I ended up uh, to get to art college back in those days. You did have to have some qualifications. So at the last moment, I just got some books out. I studied. I got some qualifications, and then I went to art college. First of all, I went to Goldsmiths in London, which was it was a very amazing art college. Um, and then I went to a college called London College of Printing, which is now I think the London Institute or something like that. So I studied fine art, and then I studied graphic design and communication. So I put the two together.
Yeah. Cool. And after when you graduate, you start work like artist, correct?
Yeah, my first job was actually in an advertising agency, which I lasted something like 2 days
Oh.
before I just, it's really weird because it wasn't until the last year I was at art college that somebody said to me, what are you going to do when you leave, like a job? And I was
Mm.
like, I hadn't even thought about it. It
Mm.
didn't occur to me that I'd get a job at all. But of course, being an artist, it's like it's not so easy. So you have to earn some money. So I had an idea that I could do something in advertising because you could be creative and you could earn money. And so I got a job as a junior art director in a London advertising agency. Based on my portfolio was very strong, so they gave me a job. And after 2 days, I thought to myself, I can't stand doing what I have to do here, so I left after 2 days. And yeah, soon after that, I kind of decided that I would then get another job, and so I worked for kind of different agencies for around about 2 year period. And after that 2 years, I really, really knew that I couldn't work in a job. So
And which year we are talking about when you quit the work like agency graphic design to become full-time artist?
yeah, what year? Um, that would have been, so I graduated from art school in 1987.
Okay.
So it would have been maybe 1989.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how you arrive to put your artwork in the art magazine that what we saw on Artwork?
Yeah. Well, that was a longer journey, of course, because then I started my own creative agency
Hmm.
with a friend. We said, we don't want to work for somebody. We want to do our own thing. But we were more like, in a way, we were more like fine artists. So to start an agency with the mentality of a fine artist was kind of strange in those days. Maybe now it's not. I don't know. So we found a studio and we started to offer to do creative projects with different people. And we did that for about 2 years. And then suddenly we started to get more successful. And uh, our work was beginning to be more experimental. And we were one of the very first people to really experiment with digital art and to really to look at, in a way we were quite pioneering to sort of see digital art as a kind of as a proper art form, not just um, something that was you did in graphics. It was something that could stand on its own. And we were looking at different ways to use language, typography, images, and stuff like that. And after a while, things got really tough, and we were almost going bankrupt completely because we didn't want to do what the clients asked us to do. So the clients, we used to ask us to do something, and then we used to go and do our own thing with their money, of course. So they weren't happy. So then after after that, things like I said, we didn't have any money or anything. But during that time, I built up a lot of different relationships with journalists and people that were writing about creativity and art and design. And, just by chance, if you believe in chance, I don't know whether we believe in it, but, coincidence, a little
Synchronicity, destiny.
synchronicity, yeah. A journalist called me up and said, we need to run a whole, we have someone that we were going to put in the magazine. I think it was Philip Stark, who was a very famous designer at the time.
Wow, yes.
But they said he was a very difficult person, apparently. So there was some legal issues or something, so they couldn't run the article. So they said, did I have something that they could put in the magazine? And really, I'd been, for 3 or 4 months, I'd been creating all this different art and using all these different technologies and stuff like that. And it just so happens that that very moment, I had all this like really avant-garde, different kind of work. Now you might look at it and say, well, yes, of course, because now we have all of this advanced technology. But back then it was, the way I was using typography and understanding different ways of using computers and combining those with different artistic methods was quite new. It wasn't, nobody was really doing it. And so the magazine, they published all our work. It was like 5 pages with a cover, everything. And that was the magazine that Bowie saw when he was flying to New York. So, but in those days, again, there was no websites or anything like that. You just put our studio phone number at the bottom of the article, and literally Bowie just called me up on the phone. So
Wow. And when he called you, you say, "Oh, wait a minute, this same that for sure who was David Bowie." That's not.
well, by this time I said we didn't have any money, but partly we'd spent all our money on this incredible studio. We made our studio like Gaudi's, like Gaudi's temple, with the windows all round, everything. We had
Wow.
no straight lines in the studio. Everything was curved. Everything was ergonomic. So that's partly why we didn't have any money as well. And we had people working for us. One of the people that we took on was a young receptionist. She was only 17. But she really was. She was good. She had everything, and she took the call. And a lot of my friends used to play tricks on me in those days, because you could say that I always had something in my mind that something was going to happen. And I always said to them, I'm going to be working with some really amazing people. And, and they always said they just laughed. Sometimes my friends would ring up, and they would tend to be Lou Reed, or Iggy Pop was another one they pretended to be. And this particular time, our receptionist called me through at my office, and she said, I've got Mr. David Bowie on the line for them.
And you didn't believe?
I did. I thought it was another joke.
Also, because I'm sure that when you was with your friends, say, "Oh, when I was kid, I growing with David Bowie." You tell, for sure, you're an artist. Wait, what you did? Okay, I don't know. You say, okay, like give you the phone, or to say, okay,
Yeah. I said, put him through, and like after 1 second, I knew it was David Bowie.
Yeah, you did points.
It's unmistakable. Yeah.
And you say, what do you call it?
It was a really amazing conversation. So we were on the phone maybe for 2 hours.
Well,
so we were just talking about. We didn't really mention his project at all. He didn't mention it. He just wanted to talk about creativity and art, and how to innovate with technology and computers and ideas. We talked about different philosophies. The conversation just went on and on and on. And in the end, he said, "Oh, by the way, I'd really like you to work on my next project, if you would like to." So, what kind of offer is that?
Wow. Wow. And, I can, I think that, oh, it's Bowie, rest in peace, and say, come to me and say, oh, do you want to work on my next project? Say, so like, I'm dreaming. I say, okay, want someone wake me up because, wow,
Yeah,
wow. And at the end, this project at the end was outside.
yeah, that was outside.
And how was the work? Because I'm very curious, what did they ask you, what you bring to the project. I know that
Yeah,
also for outside, there is few problem with the label that they didn't like the work that Bowie was trying to do, and they try to convince you, please, David, don't do that. They say, I'm working with Bowie and I'm working with the label. You need,
yeah, very true, very true.
which was what Bowie asked you and what you create together, because we know outside is a very futuristic album for that period. Also, it's a concept album about
Yeah,
craziness, mental problem that the people love now, and a lot of also what we found that didn't like before. They are rediscovering the album.
yeah. I mean, I think if I look back now, the whole idea was very ahead of its time. So yeah, I mean, the story, it was kind of around the story, very dystopian story, and it was set in a kind of time when kind of futuristic time, and it was really based on looking how art, the boundaries between art and reality were very blurred. So I think in a way now, the reason that outside comes so much more in attention now is because, like with AI now, we don't know what's real and what isn't real. We don't know where the the system itself on the thing generating the images or the videos, where that ends and the real thing begins. So in a way, I feel that we are almost moving into the world where, kind of what's art and what's reality, is much more um, undefined. So the album was really based around this kind of concept of where these boundaries that we've normally had in society and culture became very unclear. And the things that we accepted as acceptable were also unclear. And, I think it was a strange idea. And I think that in a way, it was, it was something that Bowie was very brave, very courageous to come forward with, because when he presented the idea to me, I felt, wow, if you want to do this idea, it is not like your average David Bowie. I mean, not as the average David Bowie, but we'd gone through the 80s, and then we'd gone through a whole series of different things that he'd done, sort of in the late 80s, early 90s. But this was something completely different.
Mm.
So immediately, I think that what we had to create visually for it had to be something that nobody had thought of before. And in a way, um, everything was Bowie, but not Bowie. So we wanted to create something that was very, in a way, it was ugliness that we were turn, trying to find the things that were beautiful in the ugliness. So it was almost like alchemy. We were working to create these beautiful colors and images and shapes and um, typographies. We were pulling that out of this ugliness and creating something beautiful to display something that was unacceptable.
Mm. Okay, interesting. Yeah, because we talked many times about Bowie and, also related about your tarot deck. It's interesting to see how this aspect about, okay, thinking that work of outside is an alchemic process.
Mm.
I never think about also because we know that in the family of Bowie there is a lot of people that have mental health, including the brother that was in asylum. I mean, he was maybe also try to do a ritual alchemic process on his own mind, on his own body and soul.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's interesting because now somebody did a whole magazine just on the photo shoot.
Mm.
And in a way, it was the whole thing. When I look back now, is almost like a ritual.
Oh,
So it's like we were acting out some ritual, and I didn't know it at the time, but looking back, everything seems to fit towards this. It was kind of really, it was so strange. If you were looking from the outside, it was. If you were looking in at what we were doing, you would think that this was like a crazy lunatic asylum because the whole photo shoot, everything was so. It was like the very thing of outside,
mm.
and it was even where we shot it in Shoreditch in London was like a very in those days. Like now, it's like the sort of Silicon Valley of London. But back in those days, we were going into the photo shoot studio, but there's people with like heroin needles in their arms. It was like a really down area, and it was like everything that was about that whole thing was trying almost like acting out the ritual of that of what that story was really about. I think it's almost like you couldn't make it up. It just the way everything happened was so unusual. But also, you're right. There was a lot of opposition to everything. So you can imagine that Bowie had been hugely successful commercially in the 80s. And so the record companies wanted more of this because that's what makes the money. And so when they started to see what was going, I don't think they understood. Most of them didn't understand it at all. So I remember sitting in meetings with them, and it was like a blank face, when we was explaining stuff. They just didn't understand it at all.
Maybe it's better this way.
Well, yeah, I think so. But when we started to produce the visuals, then they were really shocked, and we had a lot of problems with. I mean, Bowie's publicity manager, Alan Edwards, who's a friend of mine, and I'm still in touch with him. He was great. He was really on the side of that. He was really enthusiastic about it too. I think it was all about the experiment, but the actual record company was really worried. They were very, very nervous, and I think it was almost like a comeback for Bowie because he was again collaborating with Brian Eno on this album. So it was almost like going back to the Berlin trilogy, where there was
That also was a lot of craziness.
also a lot of craziness. Yeah. So many different things went down. It was, I mean, I could tell you more, of course. A lot of the people that were, they're not working in that company anymore. Everything's gone. Bowie's not even on the planet anymore. So it doesn't really matter to say this stuff because before I didn't say too much because people were still working at the record companies. So I thought, well, out of respect, I won't say too much. But now everybody's finished.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I know that after we have the chapter of Earthling, that maybe also it's an album that I was not able to understand when I was listening to the album, but after his concept, how he create this electric sound, like for me, it's like a rave from the future, but also he decided to sing the song in a very different way, like sound that is someone that you don't know how to sing. And also it's not matching with the music, and it's a disco. It's like this dissonance between sound and voice that creates something. I think for me personally, in the body and the mind, because you need to, okay, how can I tune myself with these two different parts of the music?
Mm.
But you was working also on that album, and maybe I want a little bit of like your thought about, and after I won't open all the chapter about Starman Tarot.
Yeah, I mean, again, that it was really interesting because of so many things on that I mean, the first thing to think about is that always with Bowie, everyone wanted the lyrics, like in the artwork, like on the in an LP's album, everybody had the lyrics. So on outside, we turned the lyrics into abstract art. You couldn't read the lyrics. So this was something that really upset the record company. Because we didn't we didn't follow that way of looking at things. And again with Earthling, I wanted the lyric to become part of the art in a way. So I almost did those like sort of illuminated not middle age, text from the Middle Ages. So I started to look at kind of illuminated text and then futuristic. So it was combining the past with the distant future that we didn't even know about at all, but we could imagine. So in a way, the Earthling thing was really just looking at the possibility of a future where the human being um, was powered by the creative spirit, and that creative spirit was what gave our lives shape and meaning and all of those things. And so a future in which creativity became the most important currency was an idea that was always going through that, and combining that with how we looked at the past. So it was kind of bringing the future and the past together to create something.
Wow. I know that we share a lot of stuff. Your last name with the last name of my mother. We are both vegan. We don't drink alcohol, and we are very spiritual person. For me, you're one of the most awake person on this planet, and this is for me is amazing. Every time that I have a conversation with you, for me it's like, oh wow, it's an illumination. And I know that sadly, when David Bowie passed away, you was in Bali, if I remember well.
Yeah.
And you start to channel literally the image of the Starman Tarot.
Yeah, I mean, that was really interesting because in a way, the Starman Tarot really started when we were working on Earthling. So we had an idea to create a deck of cards, which was like a divination deck. So using some of the ideas we'd already worked on, we thought, it'd be really cool, even to go with the Earthling project at the time. We started to say, as a special edition, you've got this set of cards, which was like you could we were talking about these kind of the future that nobody could think about. We were sort of saying, is there a way to create something to give people a download, like of imagination about what these futures could be? And again, even on Earthling, there was something there as well, because we had Bowie always, instead of his face looking at the camera on the cover, we just had his back turned to the camera. So there was always this way of trying to look at things differently. And yeah, I think just that the whole thing of the tarot deck, it was born out of that. But when Bowie died, I'd already been working on an idea for tarot, and thinking, wouldn't it be cool if I could take the idea that we had for this divination deck and work that into a tarot deck? Because by that stage, Bowie and I didn't get to the deck. So, time went on. He went on to other projects. I went traveling around the world, lots of different things happened. So the project never happened. So when he passed away, yeah, I was in Bali, and I had for 5 nights afterwards, I think I had these very vivid dreams of seeing the tarot deck, just like really understanding finally how the ideas from outside of Earthling could come together, the way we were looking at art and design, innovation and creativity, and also the power of the human spirit, how these things could come together and work their way into this system of tarot, which, I felt was, yeah, I really did feel that deck was gifted to me as it came like a download. And a lot of, I mean, you will know about it. If you're a creative person, these things, if you talk to someone who's not, I mean, I believe everyone is creative, but if you talk to people that aren't in that way of living, it seems like, for us, it seems like there's downloads all the time. So it sounds unusual when you say that, but really, we're always getting, artists and creators. We're always receiving downloads.
Agree. Sometimes the problem is when you're receiving the download, if you receive another one the day after on the same day,
Yeah,
which is the idea or the inspiration that where you need to put your all energy and all the time.
yeah,
I think that a lot of artists they struggle on this also because we need to live on this planet, we need to make money, we need to provide our lives. I think that it's literally setting on the right choice project to you say, oh, I want to invest like 10 hours a day for 6 months, 1 year, whatever, for create this project. How long you needed for creating the deck the first deck that you published many years ago?
Yeah. Well, that deck, I mean, it was interesting because just to go back to those dreams to begin with, they were like lucid dreams. They weren't like a normal dream. They were lucid dreams where I was awake in the dream. So I was literally holding this deck and seeing the art and seeing the connection between the different things that I'd done with Bowie. So I saw everything just very clearly. So I didn't have to think about how I was going to do this, artistically or creatively. But I realized that it was the kind of work, it was a lot of work. And like you said, although we're artists and creators, we still have to live in the world. And, and I'm a dad, I've got a wife, so although we were living in Bali, you still have to work, you still have to make stuff happen. And so, but, my wife said to me, look, you just have to make this, you have to do it, whatever the the consequences. This is something that you've been given, and you must do it. So I've always been really obsessed with endurance athletes. So when I was studying, thinking about doing the deck, I didn't look at other artists. I looked at people that ran ultramarathons and the kind of psychology that they need to do something that is very difficult and takes a long time. So I wasn't sure how long the deck was going to take, but I knew it would take maybe 1 or 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, to do it properly as I saw it in those dreams, I just thought minimum 1 year, but maybe more close to 2.
Wow. And after this the process to pitch to the company, you signed with the Scarabeo for the first step.
Yeah, that's right. So when I signed to Scarabeo, I hadn't finished the deck, of course. So I was about maybe a quarter of the way through. But they saw the project and they said straight away, yes, of course, we want to publish it. So then once I knew I had a publisher, and then I missed every deadline completely. And there was someone who worked there called Ricardo, who was really a genius with tarot. And he was very, very important in the project because he held the system. He helped with the system, how everything came together, and with the production and stuff like that. And of course, because I missed all the deadlines completely, this poor man was under more and more pressure as time went on. But we managed somehow to get everything together and finish it, including the book, which was really so I wrote the book with my wife. We sat down, day after day after day, going through the cart, going through all of the philosophy, going through all the connections, and putting all these things together. So the book was really important that went with the deck. And in the new deck, we've now expanded that even more. So it was really like not just creating 78 pieces of art, it was also writing, a 200-page book as well that goes with everything and explains everything in detail. So it was very involved. And I don't know, just by providence came through, and this every time I thought we couldn't continue, something came through. Either I got some royalties from something or whatever, and it gave me the opportunity to continue without having to deviate from the project.
Let's say that Bowie and spiritual forces, the universe, they was helping you, and also maybe you was using consciously, because I know that for sure consciously you was using manifestation and law of attraction for attract prosperity in the process.
Yeah, it's very important because I think as artists we naturally are given a picture by our culture that most artists just stay broke their whole life. And
yeah, I think this it's a big problem that someone brainwashed the artist for a long time.
Yeah,
my work with artists and also your work, because you do lecture, and not all it's art lecture, but it's awake the creativity in the people and wash the dirtiness in their mind that the people think that, oh, this is the right way that an artist need to think. It's our work, it's like artists, like coach, because we do that all the time. And for example, for me, when in 2019 I found your deck, I was not reading Tarot's card. At least for me, it was interesting because I was fascinated about your work with Bowie. For me, it was art. I know what was Tarot's card, but my spiritual way was more based on energy healing and helping people with hypnosis and other instruments. But I remember that in that period, I was experimenting with music, with sound, and I was doing concert with tuning fork and frequency. And literally, I have this, for me, it was a big concert, a big location in Naples where I was living in Italy. And I say, oh, I need to do a concert, but I don't have a scenography. I need something in the background. And later, I was like December, like a few days before Christmas, and I send you my music. I say, oh, Davide, uh, for me, it's an honor to write. I don't remember what to write, but it's very similar. I love your work with David Bowie, uh, your tarot deck, and later I put the file on my music, and I sent to you. Oh, I will love to use your artwork in my concert. And you, few minutes before the midnight of the 24th of December, it was like 23, was like a pre Christmas gift. Say, oh, Marco, I like your music. I authorize you to use my artwork. For me, it was like, whoa, okay, something's going on here. For me, it was like, wow. I feel like I'm approved by someone. My music approved by someone that worked with Bowie. I'm excited now to talk about. And you didn't not only do that, also say, oh, there is a friend of mine that he create a video. You put me in touch with this guy. This guy sent me the video ready to put on my concert. It was for me amazing. And when I was doing this concert, I was looking I was like this in my back. I saw the tarot card of Bowie. Say, I will literally feel it. Oh, I'm doing something interesting now. I was feeling approved by Bowie.
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
many years after, not many years after a few years, I started reading tarot cards, and I learned what for me it's my way to read that is old. Is the cross lecture style of Oswald Weird. It
Mhm.
was literally he, use all the arcana in the major and minor. You also use only the major or the major arcana, the only 22 major cards. And every time that I need to do like a tarot card lecture to someone, I give it them the choice if you want to use like the Oswald Weird deck or the Starman deck by Davide De Angelis. And every time say, oh, there is a tarot deck created by my friend that worked with Bowie, and this deck is dedicated to Bowie. Every time, okay, if they're artists, they choose the Starman deck. It's every time there is no choice, there is no second choice or oh, let me think about no. And also the people, they are not artists, but they're like they're very interested. They want to use the deck for their lecture. And personally, for me, also two deck they have a different energy, and I like the idea that you name it the deck star because I think that it's a specific energy of a specific archetype that Bowie channeled when he was creating Starman. And when I want to know, also I know that you changed few name of the cards.
Mm.
There is not the enemy, there is the alien, there is not the magician, there is the Starman, and yeah, there is very interesting concept about different stuff that I want to know if you can tell us the difference between like uh a, like older deck and
Mm.
between Starman cards.
Yeah, I mean, just on that note, for me, the Starman as an archetype is like really important because for me it's about the Aquarian, you know, um the Aquarian sort of philosopher that is kind of here as a signal for a new way of humanity understanding itself, and a new consciousness that's possible. So I think uh, a lot of what Bowie was talking about also was, I mean, if you go back earlier with Bowie, he was very much thinking about how, as the evolution of human consciousness and in relationship to culture. But in his time, you think, well, he was kind of looking at that in the 1970s. And then if we start to look where we're at now, I think that we've entered a period in history where the possibility for us to understand things on a higher level of consciousness is becoming available, which previously it wasn't. So I feel that evolution is going in a particular way, and I think that the psyche and consciousness are also evolving, not just animals and plants and in a Darwinian sense, but I feel that our psychology is also evolving as well. And also I feel that what we can call our spiritual nature is also evolving. So there is many theories that if you go back to the very dawn of humanity, we had much more of what you might call a collective consciousness. We didn't have, there wasn't such a differentiated or separate ego. A bit like a pack of animals, for example. It is very much one on, in like a hive mind, like a bee's nest or something, wasps or insects. But I believe the psyche in human beings is also evolving. And so for me, the Starman archetype is really talking about this possibility, and almost like the Hermes Trismegistus, the combination of these different archetypes coming together. So I think the Starman is super important for our time. In the deck, I've changed some of the cards. So, for example, the Fool is the Sacred Clown. And the Sacred Clown for me is, for me now, I think the Fool is no longer innocent. So for me, I think the Fool is kind of like the disruptor, the disruptive force. And the disruptor has a kind of innocence. You could call it the don't know mind. But I think that the possibility of the Fool has become like the Sacred Clown. So the Sacred Clown can show us what we cannot see. It's
like the yoga of the Native American tradition, the Loki, Joker. Yeah, this is interesting. I started work mostly with actors because I was in shock when Heath Ledger passed away because of suicide for the Joker. It's an archetype, but can be in a good way, or it can help you to find the direction, go in different direction, and say, okay, I'm this, don't do what I do, but I need to show this side.
Yeah.
But can be destructive if you're not able to handle the archetype. And also in the booklet of the deck, you say that for you, Bowie was the Sacred Clown.
Yeah. I mean, of course, he embodied the Starman, but also, I mean, if you think that the deck itself is like a whole embodiment. So for me, the deck is like a consciousness. It's like it's a living consciousness. When you work with it, you feel the consciousness of that deck. And in a way, for me, the Sacred Clown was someone who, like I said, could show us what we couldn't see. And it's like there's areas of many people have spoken about this. There's what we know, what we don't know, what we know that we don't know. So I know, for example, that I don't know quantum physics. But then there's another whole area, which is what you don't know that you don't know.
Okay.
And
I think that you know more physics, quantum physics than a lot of people. That they say that they know quantum physics, but whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't want to, because I think what we end up with is kind of quasi spirituality. So I actually don't think quantum physics has got anything to do with. In fact, in some ways now, I don't even believe in quantum physics. I feel that all these things are, and this is where the sacred clown comes in, because whatever you look at, whether it's gravity, whether it's quantum physics, whether it's atomic theory, these things are all theories.
Yeah, like the idea.
And, you know, um, as much as we think that they are true, they're not the truth.
Yeah, we create our own prophecy and our own destiny, believe in something personally and collective, like human entity, people, and nations.
Yeah.
Also we know that quantum physics is have the same theory on ancient tradition.
Yeah.
But my next question is, uh, it's true. Let's put together. I know because we can see here the deck that is the new edition, is a remaster. Why you decide to change something? I know that you don't decide. Literally, it's
Yeah,
something
yeah. No, you're right.
And
I didn't decide. In fact, I didn't want to. These things come to me, and most of the time, I don't want to do them. Yeah,
I want to relax. You're not. It's okay. I want to relax.
yeah, because they're inconvenient. It's like a lot of creativity is not making us comfortable, and I feel that we're in a society where we've been taught that the most important thing is to be comfortable, is to be safe. But actually, our real growth as humans and our consciousness is found in the areas that we're not safe. So, again, for some reason, I had a very strong experience where I felt a visitation from an energy that just literally instructed me, you have to redo the deck. And I didn't want to, I had no one. The deck for me, it was done. It was as good as it could be.
It was beautiful. It's good, still beautiful. The first
Yeah.
edition.
It was like, yeah, basta, enough. I don't want to do any more work on this. I'm already moved on to something else. But it was very strong. And so, um, first of all, I said to myself, you know what, maybe I'm just going to leave this for a little while and see what happens. And then this came again, this energy. And I saw very clearly again what I had to do. So it was really to just bring the deck to where we're at now and where we will be in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe. And taking that, it's really honing in on this Hermes Trismegistus, the energy of this being that communicates and tells us about how light is the source of everything, and how we can work with the energy of light. This light, which is in us, of course, and for us to be able to maneuver ourselves through these difficult times. So there was just something that needed to come together that brought it into alignment with where we need to go. So that's why I did it. I didn't want to do it, of course, but it was it just happened.
No, I like also because for me the deck was the first one was perfect. This I say, oh, how you can also think that an artist can say, okay, I publish something, I will change something. You didn't change all the deck, but it's impressive you change completely of the card and you change a little bit the design of water. But for me, it was interesting also that we was still in touch from 2019. Maybe we was have a conversation once a year, maybe twice a year. And literally, last year you sent me a message and say, literally the message was, Marco, are you in Los Angeles? And I say yes. I said, okay. I, you know, we met when I was in Italy. Last time, that I was living in Rome. And you told me like, oh, we need to have a conversation. Okay. And we had a conversation and you told me, this same energy that come to visit you and say, oh, you need to do the deck. Say, oh, you need to work with a person in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, you live in Los Angeles. You was here for many years. Literally, you tell me that your thought was, yeah, I know so many persons in Los Angeles. Is now, how can I choose the right person?
Yeah.
And after you receive this information, they say, oh, it's a person that have your same name that you don't use anymore. And literally, when you tell me that, for me, oh, I was thinking, oh, maybe David won't help me. Ask me if I can help find someone with his old friend. This was I say, oh, why tell me that? Because for me, you are David De Angelis, and you know that you have also named Marco.
Yeah. Well, my original name was Marco Davide. Well, actually,
Yeah.
Marco Antonio Davide. So
Yeah.
Davide David was my last name, but I was when I was born, the name I was given was Marco De Angelis. Your name's Marco, and your mother's name was De Angelis.
De Angelis. It's literally say, oh, wait a minute. I asked it to work. For me, it's a synchronicity. Bowie, you, and the tarot. We are know what we are ready to do something.
Yeah.
For me, it was interesting that how these pieces in the
Well,
years
you know what? There's
connect.
so many pieces because even again, like my mother's maiden name was Jones, and my uncle
David,
he's called David Jones.
David, the first name, the real name of Bowie was David Jones, but he changed it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So many different things, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't know why. I don't question anymore because we know that there's power greater than us that directs everything. So for me, it just said, look, there's someone in Los Angeles that you have to talk to. And you're right. I mean, over the years, I know so many people in America, Los Angeles, but it was like, no, this is something that you need to talk to this person. So I didn't even know that you were in Los.
Yeah, because last time that we were talking, it was in Rome.
Yeah. I had no clue, but for some reason it said talk to this person, Marco, and with the name De Angelis, and I'm like, what, Marco De Angelis? How could that be? And then, of course, So when I messaged you, I didn't know you were in Los Angeles, but I just thought I would, because it said Los Angeles very clearly. I thought, I'm going to just ask, and then who would know that you were there?
But also, Los Angeles, De Angelis, they have the same meaning.
I know. Yeah.
I already have a reason. Also, here in Los Angeles, there's many artists that they work with Bowie, same period that you work with him. And every time that I talk about them, about Starman Tarot, they love the deck. And my last question is because you create the deck, you do the lecture, when you work with someone that they ask, they ask you like guidance, advice, is your way to work with everyone, with artists, when they ask you something that can be everything about life and art.
Yeah. Well, now, I mean, for many years, I've worked with a lot of different, like even founders, people, people come to me when they want to create project vision. So
let's say also Steve Jobs have your art.
Yeah.
It's an Apple. Yoko Ono have your art.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt have your art.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
You create, you manifest.
Apparently so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's. I mean, the answer is I don't know, really, and it is because I'm just the vessel for something. But when I work with people, um, what I see things very clearly. So, so for example, someone who's got a project, they're at a very difficult point in the project, and this idea they're trying to innovate. So they come to me, and I literally open. My job is to open their eyes to something that they cannot see at the moment. A bit like the sacred flower, to show them something valuable that they need to think about and bring to life. And so, in a way, the idea gives me vision, or what what's important, the thing that they don't know that they don't know. And so the other side of that now is that I guess also I've had a lot of experience. So I've worked with loads of different energy masters, Steinen, teachers. I've traveled all over the world studying these different philosophies and practices. But I've also brought many ideas to light over the years, and including working, like you said, with Bowie. I did work with Apple back in the day when they were just beginning to think about touch screens. So it was a collaboration between Apple, Bowie, and me that brought one of the very first commercial touchscreen things to life. So I've got a lot of experience of working at high levels with these, like very innovative thinkers. So life experience with the spirit of vision gives you some, but I don't take credit for it because I think it's all given. It's like if I start to get in the way, it will go wrong. So my job is to get out of my own way and let the energy speak to me. That's how I work with people.
I like. And Davide, if someone wants to contact you, see your artwork, see your courses, your lecture, where they can find you?
Yeah,
Website,
yeah, right.
Instagram.
davidbowie.com. That's my website. Yeah, I think Davide Starman on Instagram. I mean, I don't spend out a lot of time on social media these days, because I've got other things that I'm involved with. But my website's a good place to start. And yeah, and also, if you want to find out more, go and get the deck as well.
Yeah, and I remember you. This is the Starman Tarot deck edition. The first one was beautiful, but this is the new one. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Davide.
Thank you, Marco.
Again, today we have a conversation with my friend Davide De Angelis, amazing artist, and Marco Perciavalle. And thank you guys for being here. Thank you.